Welcome to In the Zone, number 89. We'll say take number 2.5.
Yeah.
We've got welcome in Reid Packan.
Hey Craig.
Reid comes by way of working in the booth, doing the editing, hitting all the switches, working in the trailer for football. Yep. So Reid, you were born and raised in St. Clair. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Me and my parents, my sisters have been out here the entire time, out past I-94, kind of out in the country a little bit, and then moved once, but only moved down the road, so just been here the entire time.
So you live in which township?
St. Clair Township,
okay,
but very edge of it.
Okay. And as I always tell people, you got to mention your mother and your father and your sister's names, otherwise they're going to see it and they're going to say, why didn't you mention my name?
Well, I'm leaving this as a surprise too, so.
Okay.
Mom, Michelle, she's a real estate agent in town. My dad is project manager up in SMR in Marysville. Oldest sister Hannah is in automotive marketing. Middle sister Olivia owns her own hair salon in Richmond. And then Claudia, my younger sister, is a speech pathologist, and now she's up in Port Huron area. Mm-hmm.
So, and then you went to grade school and high school in St. Clair?
Yep, went to Gehring Elementary, and then, St. Clair High School in the middle.
Okay.
So,
tell me about your experience at St. Clair High School. Sports, no sports?
Yep.
Theater, no theater?
Yeah, I had a good time, mostly sports. I did student council and NHS, but mostly sports. Played soccer, played basketball, ran track. It was a great time. I mean, great experiences all around. For soccer, we didn't have a JV team, so I was on varsity, but I started on varsity, had like a good role with the team right off the bat, and then kind of just kept going and going with leadership and kind of captain roles there. And then flip side on basketball, I was not great at basketball, so it was kind of like, how do you learn to be a good team player? And when you're not good at a sport, how can you still benefit a team? And then for track, it's very individualized, so how can you
What did you
better?
run in track?
I was 300 hurdles, high jump, 110 hurdles, and then would always kind of get tossed in some different relays, kind of mainly the 4x4, and that one is awful because it's horrible to run, and then it's the last event of the night, so it's
so
like
you wait until the
cold
end.
and dark, and so it's only fun if you have a good team. But so one year we did, and then the other years it wasn't.
How about
great.
hurdles? Hurdles is not something that everybody does.
Yeah, and that was interesting because I wasn't the greatest at the 110 hurdles because those are a little bit higher, and I was still kind of on the shorter end of a hurdler. But the 300 was what I was best at because I think being a little bit shorter and it's pegged down a little bit, so I think I had maybe a slight advantage. So that was my best one, and then high jump kind of got better and better, and that ultimately though. My senior year got ruined with COVID, so I didn't have that senior year track. So.
And what year did you graduate?
2020. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Graduated 2020. So at what point in high school do you remember deciding what you wanted to do and where you wanted to go to college?
Yeah, and that changed a lot up until kind of the last moment. But I remember us having to do a presentation kind of on different career paths in Roger Beaton's business class, and it was kind of in the realm of make a presentation, but he wanted it to do something that would benefit us. So it was good, and so I knew I liked writing because I had Mr. Fouché, which was one of the greatest teachers at St. Clair. So I knew I liked writing and wanted to do something with writing. So the career path I picked was creative writing or screenwriting or something. And then you had to do two, and so then my realistic safe choice was something in finance or something. Sure. So it was good because you had to like really look into what the career was, kind of different colleges that offered good programs in that, and different salaries and everything. And so through looking into screenwriting, I kind of realized that that is kind of like an option, and I found that University of Michigan had a really good program in screenwriting and kind of creative writing. So I applied there, didn't get in. And then COVID kind of threw everything for a loop too. I've had a couple smaller offers to run track at some smaller schools, but ultimately didn't want to do that because of COVID. It was kind of weird. So I decided to just save money, go to SC4, which was great. Got to work, got to coach high school soccer at that time, and then in that time, I was kind of looking around some different programs, and I came across Michigan State's communication program. And what was really enticing about that was the overlap of different majors within the communication major. Because how their program is set up over there is they have concentrations within the communication program. So medical communication, kind of television communication, media communication, creative advertising, and then they have a separate like media production major. Okay. And so I was just looking for a lot of just overlap of courses I could take, and that kind of came up good, and applied, got in, and then was there in 2021.
So give me for example of the different classes you took there as the overlap, what they were.
Yeah, so they have all their intro level communication courses, so just basic kind of different terminology of, you know, how do people communicate with one another. And then it got more into management communication, so leadership and followership. How do you build a team? How do you designate roles to a team, and how do you keep the team communicating with one another to enact and like finish a goal in a job setting? That was really interesting, and that was also kind of in the middle of me coaching soccer, so it was great to kind of be able to use that kind of stuff for that. And then I had a campaigning communication course, which was really interesting because it wasn't just like political campaigning, it was for like medical and social campaigns too. And that was more so interesting because they would give you insight on how different organizations skew charts, graphs, and data to favor their position and stuff. Yeah. So that was just really interesting because it's like then you start to look at everything in a different lens of like, oh, you could see who they're, you know, who they're putting this out for and why they're skewing the data this way. And so that was all really good. And then my senior year, I kind of got more into the mediated communication courses where I had probably my best professor there. And it was strictly kind of audience response to television and film. And it was talking about all the different things and the different techniques used in television and film to kind of draw in attention, draw where you're looking on a screen. And then it kind of got into children's television media too. And the whole startup and that with like Sesame Street and how they had to do all this research to kind of look into how can we tell that kids are learning from a TV program and what are they learning and how can we guide their attention so that they're learning what we're trying to get them to learn. So it was a lot of different stuff. And then on top of that, just like some other odds and ends courses for electives wise. So I had a coaching soccer course.
So did you learn the mechanics of running all of the facets, like say at Channel 6 that you know now? Did you learn it at college?
I never took like a multicam class or well, I took an audio class, but they were very like intro level. That mostly came from the club that I was in at State, MSU Telecasters, and actually Bruce Holliday was in Telecasters too, so it's been around forever. And how they have it set up is it's a student-run organization, like 5 or 6 different programs, and so the one that I was a part of was called the Beaumont Bulletin, and it was like a news parody satire, so kind of like Weekend Update, different kind of like, yeah. So that was very hands-on stuff. We have a studio in the communication building, and so that I was running multicam, I was directing multicam, setting up a multicam shoot, and then any sort of remote stuff I was organizing.
Hopefully Paul's doing the right thing with the cameras here.
Yeah, right? Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I don't know. I'm usually back there. Everything runs smoothly, so hopefully Paul's got this down.
So now, did you do the writing as well?
Yes. So that's what I started out doing. And I started on the Beaumont Bulletin, kind of just inputting different script ideas, whatever. And then the next year I was the head writer and also the co-producer. And then so I was just, the bulk of the script writing was me, which I loved, and then becoming the producer, I had to run a show too.
Put it all together.
Yeah, and so that was really fun. I like organizing like a complete show, block by block. And so when we first started out, when I was there, it was shorter form, kind of 5-6 minutes long. And then I wanted to make it longer form, like a full show. So we got it up to like 15-20 minutes.
Okay.
So like organizing that, and then also getting everyone else on board to have input, like writing segments and stuff, was fun. And it doesn't always work out, and there's often night before a shoot and I'm writing the rest of the script down. But
so what's interesting about this whole communication aspect of what you're living, going through college, is that, and we've had discussions off camera about this, is that some people 5 years ago might have said, well, why would you go into that? It's dying. TV's dying, right? Radio's dying. And to a certain degree, they are probably correct.
Yeah.
But here we are in 2024, and maybe you don't, and especially your generation of 20, 25-year-old kids, you're not watching the conventional Channel 247 news, but you're watching Twitter, you're watching YouTube, you're watching Instagram, TikTok, and all of these 4 or 5 are important.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's always changing, but it also kind of always ends up coming full circle. So like even amidst all of the streaming, in the prime of streaming, no commercials, low prices. Now they have everyone in. Yeah, commercials are in, prices are way higher, and then now they're even offering package deals of you can get these 3 streaming services. It's just like, it's cable, but in streaming. So it's eventually everything kind of comes back around, and you'll probably see a little bit of cable coming back, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah, it is interesting though with the whole online aspect. I mean, like you said, we were always talking about like having your own YouTube channel and finding a niche of just something, of a hobby, and you have this huge following. And it's great because individual content creators, it's all their product. They own it.
Another example is that if you go back 5 or 10 years and you look at how podcasting started, and people in radio at that time would have said that's never going to work. It's never going to work. And now all of a sudden you have podcasts gaining traction. Now if you look at a radio station, almost every one of them has all their shows podcasted.
Right.
So because it's the way that you do it today, the old way was you got in the car and you went on your drive to work and you listened to the radio. But no, now this is what runs it.
Yeah.
And I want to listen to that when I'm doing my lawn or I'm doing something else. Put the earbuds in and listen to the show you want to listen to.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And it's weird because the industry itself, entertainment industry, is like, it's hitting low points of automation, of not needing as many employees.
Sure.
But then it's also picking up in different spots. Like these podcasts are now becoming on YouTube. And so they need a whole production team to have set design, have cameras set up and working audio. And it's like it opens up new opportunities, and then in some aspects it takes away opportunities, but it all comes full circle.
But it's like I say, if you think that it's not going to change, you're sadly mistaken. It's going to change whether you like it or not, and it's going to go forward, and it's going to forever be evolving. It's like, who would have guessed a Joe Rogan? And I don't know Joe Rogan's numbers, but but I think he gets millions of people per week that listen to his show. The Kelsey brothers.
Yes.
Okay, one of the Kelsey's just retired from pro football. His brother is engaged to
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. So those guys just signed a big agreement to do a podcast
with Amazon.
Big money.
Oh my God, yeah.
But it's interesting seeing these things happen. As you say, something
really
might be dying off, but something else comes that's big.
Yeah. It's interesting. And another class that I had was social media listening, which is a part of advertising. And a big aspect of that is following influencers, following these podcast hosts, and they said our product like offhandedly. We got to ride that high.
Got a bunch of hits on
So they're just constantly watching. Yeah, exactly. There's programs where you can watch user engagement across all these different social media platforms. Right. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, see how many times people are talking about your product. And it correlates with spikes in somebody talked about it, like, oh, I dropped my cup. Oh, it's my Stanley Cup. And then just because of that,
right, boom.
Stanley goes up a lot. And so it's all interesting because there's somebody who's doing social media listening for some company. And then if that's going up, then we need a production crew because we got to put out more content for our products because we got to ride this wave right now because, it comes and goes.
So what are you, 22 or 3?
23. 23.
So as a 23-year-old, what are you paying most attention to as far as on this device?
It's weird. I'm kind of like anti all of it. But I follow, I just think it's interesting to look at like framing in different accounts of stuff. So especially in election season, just the different news sources that put out their different stuff on TikTok and Instagram, and just like you can kind of tell which way they lean, and then you can tell how they're trying to frame it, either to kind of like favor their candidate or kind of scare the other group into kind of coming to their side. It's all interesting, and it's weird because I kind of am under the lens of, oh, everybody sees this too. They see right through it. But it's like you look at the comment sections and it's like, oh my God, nobody gets it.
It's like the example of, and we're not going to get political, but it's about the political scene right now. You're going, really? You haven't decided who you're going to vote for by now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it's like, you can see it's definitely like a literacy epidemic of social media. Like, my parents have been pretty good about it, so I haven't really had issues with that. But like your grandparents might see something on TV and they're like, "Oh, did you see this?
Did you hear this?"
Or, They're like, "No, that's AI." Like you can tell.
Right.
Did you see? Yeah, it was just
now. So which function are you, or what are you using? Are you an Instagram person? Are you a?
I use it all. I mean, I don't use it as I'm like an influencer posting a lot of stuff, but I see a lot of different stuff. I don't use Twitter or X anymore, but I'm on TikTok a lot, and that stuff is really interesting because once you're on it for like a couple minutes, then you can kind of see your algorithm changing.
Right.
And so again, it's just I'm aware of that, and so then I'm like, oh, I gotta stop.
Well, the interesting thing is too is like, and there are some people that may watch this and maybe don't pay attention to it, but it's like, if you said to me you're going to disconnect the cable at my house, it wouldn't bother me at all.
Right.
I'll go to YouTube. And I like to watch YouTube because YouTube, I'm going to watch an interview with somebody that I have like interest in.
Yeah,
and what does it do? It feeds me more interviews just like it.
And that's the issue. I mean, the same thing with like the framing and everything. It's if that's all you're seeing, then that's all you're going to really believe, and that's your scope of the world. One of the coolest little theories in my media course was the mean world theory, and that's just the idea that big news stories sell. So what are headlines of news broadcasts? It's all the scary stories, shootings, car crashes, and so then if your attention span is kind of just to watch the first 10 minutes of a news broadcast, that's all you're knowing and seeing, and then your perspective of the world is just, oh my gosh, it's terrible. There's no good things.
I say that I wish we could fine these media companies when they come on with their news, and the first thing they say is breaking news, and you go, that was breaking a day ago.
Yeah, right.
Or 9 hours ago. I've already heard it 4 times.
But it's like you can't necessarily blame the studios because their job is to get the much viewership, get as much sales out of everything, and it's like nobody's gonna buy some guy opens the door for an old woman. They're more engaged with the bigger stories, the scarier stories.
Now, does a 23-year-old pay any attention to Facebook any longer?
I don't have Facebook. And it's really bad because my family's, like our whole entire family's group chat with like my grandparents and aunts and uncles, they do like a Facebook Messenger.
And you can tell what they're
out. I don't have Facebook, so I don't know when we're having family dinners or birthday parties.
But it is funny though, and it is interesting that the age group, and that's why I said that to you, because I didn't think you were on Facebook, because 20-somethings, that's yesterday.
Yeah,
or
it's weird.
That's a decade ago.
It's kind of like it's a trickle-down effect.
Right.
So it was Facebook, and then like Instagram is still everybody, but I wonder if like in 10 years now
that's gone.
Yeah,
right.
and then something new comes
what's
along.
Next?
It's just,
What's going to be next?
And it's a lot of new trendy apps come up and come and go, but it's like only
now,
a few stick.
One of the things I've heard, and I don't pay attention to it, but they're like this whole TikTok thing. There's an issue with TikTok because it's Chinese, right? And there's this whole negative energy issue about that. And my question is, well, then why doesn't somebody here from the U.S. design something similar to it?
Yeah, and that's weird because I think the bigger issue is it's very just free. There's you can see anything on there, and I don't know if maybe they're looking for more FCC kind of government control over something like that, because like I'm looking at just the most random stupid videos, and then out of nowhere it's like something from the Ukraine war or something, and it's like it's interesting because it builds your perspective on like, oh, this is actually happening, and so then it's just a weird battle between.
You know, what's interesting too, I find, is that when you look at our founding fathers and the documents and the declarations and all the things they put into play, but then you look at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, some of this stuff needs to be somewhat governed or overseen.
Regulated,
But they, you certainly couldn't see this 200 years ago.
Right. Yeah, it's
so like an example I'll give you is I remember, because I went communications and you couldn't swear on TV or radio, right? Well, but a podcast can swear.
That's what I mean. It's weird that people try to say, well, yes, this is the rules and everything, but it's like the rules are just so different from media platform to media platform, and it's just like, I don't know how they all disagree on. Yes,
or you watch, or you listen, or you watch a YouTube or a podcast, and the guest will say, "Well, can I swear on here?"
Yeah,
right. Because he was on the radio an hour ago and he couldn't swear.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's like the rules seem to always be changing still, which is good. They should.
Right.
But I don't know. It's who makes the rules. I don't know.
That's right. Some fine lines there that we have to navigate. So what's next for Reid?
So I don't know. I'm definitely working for CTV when I can. I love helping out here, doing this show, doing the Focus program, and all the live sports and stuff is really fun. And I think it's a really great station. Like, it's community TV, but I think the equipment that we use and everything and the production level is set up great. And I mean, that's good credit to Paul and Bruce. They did a good job here. And then it's just kind of finding different outlets of work. So also right now I'm doing some other freelance work, and the guy that I'm with owns his own production company, and they kind of do more so marketing, promotional material for smaller businesses, organizations. So yesterday I was down in Ann Arbor on a 13.5-hour shoot. And they're just doing a 5-minute video for their residency program in their cardiovascular hospital. So it was just, I got there at 5 in the morning and set up everything, started interviews at, I think, 8, and just kind of ripping through interviews with all their residents and faculty. And then I'm going back tomorrow evening to get some B-roll shoot. And then next Tuesday, they're filming some surgeries in the operating room. And then they're hopefully going to get it all put together by middle of October. So that one's a quick turnaround. So it's just a little bit of odd projects like that, hopping on shoots when I can with them, and then doing some editing for them remotely. So.
What I find interesting too about what you're doing is that, 20, 30 years ago, that stuff didn't even exist, right?
Yeah, and that's same respect. It's like your only media source was television. Now with all these social media platforms and YouTube and everything, you need shorter form content. And so that opens it up a lot for these smaller production companies, and that's what I mean. Like, it's losing jobs in some aspects, and then this is huge.
The one I always use as an example is being employed in the mid to late '80s. There was no such thing as an IT department. There was no technology, so you didn't have that. Now you go to a school, you go to a large manufacturer. There's an IT director. There's several people that do nothing but IT, and network everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's certainly something that is going to grow because there's bars, there's restaurants, there's different businesses, there's trucking companies that may want to hire people, so they want to get to people on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, I think the craziest stat out there is technology has evolved more in the last 5 years than the previous 50 or something.
Right.
And it's just like you need smart, intelligent people at the front of that to kind of always be with
pushing.
Yeah, always pushing and always with the what's new, what's the new equipment out, what's the new techniques available. And the more savvy you are with that, the more you can kind of get away with of having a good production at the lowest cost on your end possible. And so why they're doing so great is they're doing that. They're able to kind of keep this production at a low cost, so it allows kind of smaller businesses and organizations to be able to afford a higher level production.
I've seen, I can't remember where it was, but I saw on YouTube one time a year or two ago where there was a production company that did a video with trains, and they did it with an iPhone, and it looked like it was real trains.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a couple, you don't see it too often, but like feature films that have been filmed on an iPhone, and it's like they win awards. Like the technology's there, and more than ever, you can make your own movie, like as people say now, like, oh, why don't you just go do it yourself? You really can. It's just more of a time
another thing that I find very interesting is this, okay, Steve Jobs was the guy that developed the iPhone.
Yeah.
Okay. There was already cell phones. So people would say, well, it's a cell phone. No, it's a cell phone. It does email. It does texting.
Yeah.
It pretty much eliminated the need to buy a light source because you've got a built-in light source, so you don't need flashlights anymore.
You don't think it could get any better, and then they're always innovating something new. And I think what the most interesting thing is like BlackBerry, and how that was even before that way bigger, and just because we're texting, phone calls, and email, and then they refused to kind of keep evolving, and that's when they got over.
Did you ever see the movie on them?
Yeah, I did.
I saw the same thing. And
it's interesting because it's like, technology is evolving more in the last 5 years. You got to be right with it, or you're going to get left behind.
Yes, that is a true statement coming from a guy that's in the technology. So thanks for coming by, Reid.
Yeah, no problem.
Good to hear you. Phone number will be up there, 586-707-5811. Look at that. Paul Dingman did that remotely.
This guy might take my job.
You better go get him. Thanks for coming by, and we'll catch you next time. Number 89, in the can, as they say.